According to the National Library of Medicine, a research biomedical informatics and world's largest biomedical online library, the COVID-19 imposed restrictions led to an inevitable surge in the use of digital technologies to adjust to new ways of interaction, life and work. For Uganda, then came the hybrid concept of election campaigns, that is, the fusion of traditional processes and scientific ones, including usage of Twitter and Facebook for the 2021 polls. The election campaigns were marred by, among others, internet disruption to total blackout and intensive rampant disinformation campaigns. Access to Facebook was consequently blocked and remains to this day after the American social media giant Meta Platforms Incorporated, the owner of the social media website, shut down dozens of accounts linked to the government PR machinery for spreading disinformation. A BBC investigation early this year lifted the lid on a web of fake social media accounts under false identities that spread pro-government messages while targeting critics with threats during and after the 2021 polls. The freezing of Facebook, which is only accessible by VPN, led many Ugandans to migrate to the microblogging site X, formerly Twitter. Regardless, social media emerged as a key tool for driving narratives, creating social change, and to some extent, holding power to account against the backdrop of poor or non-existent service delivery across the country. Progressively, the digital streets have become the avenues for speaking truth to power. Journalists, activists, and human rights defenders continually exhibit their work on various online platforms to express themselves as individuals with significant digital space influence. The discourse has also meant pushback by those targeted, especially in high-profile positions. Moses Karis Oteba, a protection and psychosocial support consultant, says most human rights activists are moving online due to the shrinking civic space and wider reach online.
And most human rights defenders, human rights activists, finding the online and digital spaces as a more comfortable, a more secure alternative to physical engagements, and also the reach is wider.
Social media conversations usually start with individuals. For instance, I wanted to search an individual, Agatha Tuhaire and her team, who started the conversation on the March to Parliament, plus many other online activists. But if you analyze, of course, using a tool like this one, which is free, Brand24, you're able to see what people said or how people interacted and engaged with the hashtag March to Parliament. Let's say we're going to look at the last 30 days. We are in October, and the conversation started in August. But you'll see that we still have 429 mentions of the hashtag, and there are 355,000 searches, social media searches of the hashtag March to Parliament. And we have 39,000 interactions with the hashtag March to Parliament. 12 of them were positive. Of course, you can also get the negatives as well. And this is a graph of the reach in September. A 2024 Digital Trends report by Data Reporter, a global research organization that provides data on digital trends, shows that by January 2024, Uganda had 33.34 million active cellular mobile connections, 13.3 million internet users with 25% internet penetration, and 2.6 million social media users, about 5.3% of the total population. Of these, 638,800 users are on X, formerly Twitter. As a brand new form of online activism and mobilization gathers steam, such as the Parliament exhibition and March to Parliament, which saw several activists arrested and remanded, so are the cases of online violence growing. These include discrediting professionally, vilification, defamation, personal attacks designed to humiliate and silence, bigotry, shaming of all forms, and in growing cases, doxing, that is, searching and publishing private information about a particular person on the internet, typically with malicious intention. Women journalists and activists are disproportionately affected.
Mental health, my mental health has been affected in a very, very big way. You get on the edge, you get irritated, you get emotional, you get overwhelmed. Sometimes security officers themselves to threaten you, to troll you, to trade you, to invade your privacy, and that's sort of surveillance that is unwarranted, and even that you have to learn to live with it.
Analysis of the hashtag March to Parliament reveals 302 million searches of the tag and 21 million interactions on TikTok and X. Of these, 244 interactions were negative, but the figure could be higher since the social media applications are not configured to recognize offensive communication in most African languages. For instance, this post on X attacking the personality of Carlton Scovia Nakamia, a journalist with one of the local TV stations. These engagements and mentions were on X Spaces in audio formats and tweets. Consequently, more hashtags continue to emerge in the online space as Uganda's democracy and good governance advocates take to their gadgets to voice public grievances over taxpayers' demands for public accountability and better social services. Other social platforms like TikTok continue to morph from a fun-filled space with private lives going public to short satirical videos meant to drive narratives to voice their frustrations in the country. Brenda Namata, the program's coordinator on strategic initiative at Policy, a data governance and feminist collection of technologists in Uganda and other countries across Africa, says their 2022 research reveals that whereas more women are embracing the digital space, the internet continues to be a dark area for many.
That women are increasingly suffering the attacks online, spilling from the digital space into the physical space, and the traditional attacks against women from the physical space are also spilling into the online space.
There is a developing trend, I think, all over the world of people using social media to suppress divergent opinions, to attack people they don't agree with, not to generate debates, but to run propaganda, not to offer their alternative views, but to shut you down.
This experience is shared by other journalists and activists. Journalist, lawyer, and social justice activist Agatha Atuhaire, who in March 2024 scooped the International Women of Courage Award by the U.S. State Department and was on Wednesday this week listed among the Times Magazine's 100 key individuals, tells of demeaning comments and harassment online compared to her male counterparts doing the same activism work.
I am the most attacked, and we are many that we are at least a couple that are doing this work. So being a woman makes you an easier target. There's always really the frustration, and it comes, and as in bed, I just found my tears flowing, and I wrote on our WhatsApp group and said, you know, I am in bed, and just tears started flowing. And one question I asked, that's on my mind is, will we ever get our lives back? Like, you lose, it's no longer your life now.
Despite the challenges, Atuhaire is happy to share milestones gained on online activism as more Ugandans appreciate the use of social media as an alternative to physical gathering to agitate for change in the governance system of the country.
But then, when you look at the incremental change and progress, and when you find people that say they are inspired, but also you don't just find them, you see it. That like you mentioned, people on X now, more people are asking questions, and that's important. That's an achievement.
Faiza Salima, a presenter and show host with Nation Media Group Uganda, has over 80,000 followers on X, and she uses the platform to earn a living.
I mean, it's been a great place. I like to call my social media my jam, okay, like my jelly to the bread and butter of my work. It's been a great place to connect with people who listen to me or, you know, interact with me on mainstream media. So social media, great place to connect, but also it has proven to be a great place for me to make money or, you know, grow a career away from mainstream media.
As a journalist, Carlton Scovia Nakamia, with about 110,000 followers on X platform, uses it to exhibit her work and share her journey of resilience and triumph.
Even when you go to spaces where you think people can challenge the way you work, like, it's okay to be challenged. I mean, I shouldn't agree with you all the time. I mean, we have totally different opinions, different stands,
Different worldviews.
you know.
However, with such a huge following on social media, the three female online activists face a similar dilemma of navigating online abuses while driving narratives on issues they present to their audiences.
Criminal Investigations Department is investigating me for doing my job, like as if I have committed a crime. And criminals are there at large, by the way, but they are harassing Agatha, invading your privacy, looking for your phone conversations and whatever, and putting them out there. And because I only published information about procurement, it wasn't classified information. It was the information that even the law requires, the PPD Act requires that procurement information is published by the entity itself that is procuring.
While cyber or online crime is one of the fastest growing crimes across the world, as more and more of us use the internet in our daily lives, according to the UN, the violence met out against women, though not a new phenomenon, has escalated rapidly, posing significant threats to women's safety and well-being both on and offline.
Because there's no crime to charge me with, so they would rather have those rogues or sometimes security officers themselves to threaten you, to troll you, to trade you, to invade your privacy, and that's sort of surveillance that is unwarranted, and even that you have to learn to live with it.
To Parliament rather, that was happening online. I remember, talking about it, and then some of the comments labeling or slut shaming me. Okay, now that would derail the conversation, right?
Again, it comes from the social narrative, the notion, the cultural notion that it's okay for a man to sleep around, but it's not okay for a woman to sleep around. And this whole slut shaming thing, basically, it's because of how dear sexuality, a woman's sexuality, is to them. It's close.
Like, that person attacking me wants me off the track. I have to be alert.
In a 2020 study by the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization UNESCO and the International Center for Journalists, 73% of 1,210 women journalists interviewed noted that they had experienced online violence in the course of their work. 20% noted they had also been attacked offline in connection with online violence targeting them. 25% had received threats of physical violence. 18% had been threatened with sexual violence, while 16% of women journalists narrated that online harassment and abuse was much worse during the COVID-19 pandemic. And I quote, "Online violence against journalists is a significant feature of what we call platform capture, which involves the weaponization of social media by bad faith actors, in combination with the structural failures of the platform's business models and product designs, and the virtual entrapment of many news organizations and journalists into platform dependency." The study titled Chilling Global.
They went all the way to Lubowa and met with her. She had gone with someone to said, "Tell your sister we will kill her. We will run her over. We are not going to have sleepless nights because of her. Does she think she owns this country? Does she think she's the one that cares about this country more than everyone else? She should stop making her lives difficult. We are worried every day that people will go on the streets because she's inciting them," and something like that. And my sister was shaking. Because, so now they have taken the threat to another level, that you're no longer only fearing for your life, but you're responsible for another person's life.
It is a common narrative in the civil society tech spaces that structurally silenced women often distance themselves from engaging in online conversations for fear of backlash.
If somebody goes online and they are, saying all these outrageous things about you, and they are accusing you of this, accusing you of the other, they are inciting, others who would probably then do bodily or physical harm to you.
Social media attacks can be by users who hide under pseudonyms and act as bots, but they can be traced. There are also real accounts whose activities can be analyzed to show patterns of how they interact with content created by women online and their views on women. Whereas there is no clear data of online abuses and harassment on online female activists in Uganda, the much-touted Computer Misuse Amendment Act 2022 has not been widely used to protect content creators and online activists from attacks. The police annual crime report hardly presents any analysis of online harassment. The law, which set hefty fines and lengthy jail terms for convicted offenders, was hastily designed by those in power to curtail the embers of online violence. It was moved by Kampala Central Member of Parliament Muhammad Nsereko in early 2022. The law was consequently challenged in court, and in January last year, the Constitutional Court nullified Section 25 on using electronic device to willfully disturb the peace of others. Sources inside Police Cyber Unit told NTV online attacks are categorized under cybercrime without specifics. Sources, however, indicated that a lot is still required to train police officers at posts and stations to understand how to record cases of online attacks whenever they are reported for further investigations. In an increasingly digitalized world, police authorities divulge that those who report cases of online attacks and abuses are high-profile political and social figures who can afford the rigorous process of seeking for justice. As such, there are no clear figures on online violence and harassment being investigated by the police for trials in court because most victims of online attacks and abuses cannot easily afford the cost of following up cases in court.
My biggest problem is the fact that even with a law in place for you to be able to report some of these offensive remarks, it is not easy. You need money, you need resources.
You need to also understand the process.
You also need to understand the law.
How it works, yeah. In the meantime, most victims of online abuse have resorted to either professional counseling for those who can access the services, withdrawing from the platforms, or ignoring the abusers, among other coping mechanisms.
Comments that mirror each other, okay? And if you go the extra mile of clicking on their accounts to see what their accounts look like, you can always tell that, first of all, these are also, most of them are faceless accounts that have the picture of maybe a political figure that they are supporting. In the bio, you'll see a few things that also speak to maybe a specific political party.
You have to take keen interest to know. The moment you know it's a bot, actually block.
Reach out. Don't die in your movie. It's okay to be strong. It's okay to have moments of weakness. Reach out for support.
For the vast majority of people, the internet provides a positive and very useful experience. However, cyberbullying and online harassment is something that can potentially affect anyone emotionally and physically. Matters are made worse when the crimes are perpetrated in cyberspace, sometimes with hardly anyone to be